Because I had to go do that.
I can go down.
I should have known better. Yeah, today.
Suggested he had him
Yeah,
and needs
asphalt,
someplace.
I don't know, little pieces like black.
Where they tore the road up?
He
Yeah,
doesn't
we
want
took
anybody to
a
throw
road
away
up
because
there
there's
and
no
then back on,
security
and I walked on it, and I wanted to
He's
see what
afraid
was
of
there.
music that
Without thinking, I was just like, oh, I gotta see that, and I'm like, oh, crap.
I think they put hot mix in there today.
He's afraid Grace
Yeah,
would do the same
and
thing.
it was still hot, because it was so
I
hot.
can't imagine anybody wanting to throw him away.
I got home
He
from
has
my
a picture
rap trip
thrown
and I
Grace
went
through
down
some
there
of his old
about
pictures.
3:30 and stepped right in.
It takes a long time these days.
I agree with you.
It was like, oh, man.
Yeah.
I thought maybe if we got a grant started or something that we could help with.
All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order tonight. Welcome, everyone. We'll start with the invocation from Councilor Cluns.
Father, we thank you for this opportunity to be here together. And on the day after Labor Day, we thank you for all those that labor on behalf of the city, for the people that are out there working whenever there's an emergency, when something needs to be taken care of, when we have storms or rain events that need to be taken care of, or we have emergency accidents or all kinds of other things. We thank you for our city workers and the work that they put into helping our community run smoothly. Please help us tonight to take our jobs seriously and to spend the taxpayers' money wisely. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. A little nicer in here than outside, I'd say. Pretty hot out. Let's start with the approval of the minutes from the August 20th meeting. Those have been presented in board pack, and you've had a chance to look through those. Are there any corrections to those as presented? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve them as presented?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as submitted.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, thank you. All right, got a visitor tonight. I'm going to have Jeremy introduce him. Alan Teal works for Michael Kinder and Sons, and currently they are working on a couple projects in the city, and I just want to give you all an update for both those projects and where we stand and what we're trying to accomplish. Jeremy?
Yeah, so certainly if you've been to the city's redevelopment commission meetings, you've probably seen Alan Teo there a couple times, and also working with the redevelopment commission on a couple of projects, i.e. mainly the Gacky and the Buffalo Street project. The Gacky property we've been working on for years, trying to find a potential development solution for that. It was a big part of our Stellar projects a few years back, and so we're still working off those kind of plans, still trying to create a potential development option there, and we've been working with Alan on that. Now, the Buffalo Street is a little bit newer project in terms of time frame. Obviously, we're doing our part in the infrastructure, and we'll be working on the plaza next year. We're currently designing that. We've been working with Alan as he works with Dave Matthews on the potential mixed-use building. So Alan Teo's here with Michael Kinder and Son, and I'm going to let him talk a little bit about the projects that he's been working on.
All right, good evening. Thank you, Jeremy, and thank you to the mayor for the invitation to be here with this evening. Again, my name is Alan Teo. This is the first time I think I'm with you presenting in my role at Michael Kinder and Sons. It's also the last time I think I'll be with you before I move to a different role in the community beginning in a few weeks. So I'll be back, right? So would like to talk a bit about the two projects that Jeremy referenced, the Gacky project and the Buffalo Street project. I want to step back, though, and just talk for a minute about my view of economic development and how we're coming at these projects. I look at economic development typically as working with companies, help them, grow at every stage, right? So it's finding the right resources at the right time, putting the right teams together to help companies find success in your community, and then ultimately become ambassadors for your community, right? Go out and tell people they know about why this is a great place to do business. So with these two projects, the Gacky warehouse and the Buffalo Street project, I mean, we're talking about not just helping companies grow, but also really helping build the amenities, the product we have to go market that really puts us on the map. I mean, that people can talk about, get excited about, and provide a catalyst, provide a spark for other developments to happen. I mean, ultimately, from where you're at, creating jobs, creating tax base, helping to really create vitality in the community. And so I wanted to just share updates on both of the projects. I'm going to go through both of them, and happy to answer questions at the end if there are questions. If I talk too fast, go like this. If I'm talking too softly, go like that. But the first project, the Buffalo Street project, I'm going to start there. So this is the, really, I look at it as a capstone to that Buffalo Street corridor development. So you've got just a fantastic developer, Matthews LLC out of South Bend, developing housing, owner-occupied housing along Buffalo Street corridor. And then that this mixed-use building becomes a capstone for that development. And so as we're approaching that building, that project right now, looking for a mixed use where we'd have office, retail, we'd have apartments or something, multifamily. And so a nice complement to what's already there, a nice complement to what should be more than a $20 million total investment in the Buffalo Street corridor. And something, again, that will be something new to the community, something that adds to the vitality here. We're also though, looking for two things. Number one, looking for new uses we can bring to the area, something like a business incubator, for example, that we don't have yet to help provide a front door for small businesses in some of our growth sectors, as well also working with existing companies that want to locate in the building and want to be part of that project from the start. And so again, think back to my set is the economic developers putting together all the right people and helping to find out what is the gap, what are the questions we need to solve in order to help move a project like that forward. So that's a quick update on the Buffalo Street project. I mean, if I had a crystal ball, I'd say we're moving forward this fall for construction next spring. That's crystal ball, if all things line up. But again, I'm very pleased with the momentum we have so far, working with companies that want to be part of the project from day one, and working with the city and other partners to help put that together. Really, again, make it a very unique project, compelling project that, like so many other things, helps to put Warsaw on the map. So then I'm going to switch over to the Gacky project. So the Gacky site, everyone's familiar with it, right? I see that, I say, hey, that's a great canvas to paint on. We've got a great location, well located at the gateway between Warsaw and Winter Lake to help really activate and be the foundation for other investments in that corridor. And so working with our team at Michael Kinder and Sons, again, we have clients, companies we're working with that want to be part of the project. But these are business owners that have day jobs, so we have to put the pieces together, see everybody fits. And we have, again, tenants identified and looking to start with the warehouse redevelopment, and then over multiple phases, figure out how do we activate the rest of that site. And again, looking in crystal ball, it's that becomes the foundation for a much bigger, longer-term vision of how to activate that corridor and that gateway between the communities. And really, then you think about 3 to 5 years from now, you've got a keystone there with the Gacky site. You've got something here at Buffalo Street. You've got 2 great corridors coming in downtown. And just a lot of momentum to build on. And so, again, this is where we're at right now is working with tenant companies, client companies, to make sure all the pieces fit, working on development agreements, working on a couple final questions about the business model for the projects, for both projects, and then working with the city and other partners to figure out how do we work together to get these moved forward. I certainly appreciate the partnership so far with the city, the enthusiasm we have from members of the community, and the folks that are on board with us to get started from day one, and want to be able to announce both projects as soon as we can, and all signs are pointing in that direction. So that's a quick overview, introduction. Didn't want to go too far in the weeds to start. Happy to help with any questions, and just again, thank you for the opportunity.
Questions on either project?
Where in the timeline does the mixed-use building fit into the whole picture?
Yes, ma'am. So, great question. I think initially the way the project was envisioned, and so I'm going to take a step to the side here. It would be that phase 1 would be the townhouses, and phase 2 later is the mixed-use building. By our group, Michael Kinder and Sons getting involved, our hope is that we'll be able to get started on that mixed-use building right alongside the housing. And so it's everything's happening at once. You've got some great momentum building up because people can then see both projects coming together.
Okay.
Anybody else? All right, Alan, thank you. And,
Mayor, thank you.
hopefully We'll see you soon and have a little more information.
We'll be back soon. Again, I'll likely be in a different role by then, but look forward to being part of the community and really helping build on what's been a long track record of success here. So thank you.
All right, thanks, Alan. For those of you who don't know, Alan is taking George's place down as our Lido.
Oh,
He'll be
okay.
with us starting September 17th, so. Okay. All right.
There's that name.
As far as reports and oral written communications, I had just something I want to talk a little bit about. You know, when the mayor's road gets paved, everybody's got questions, and I thought it would be good to talk about how this evolved. 2016, we did our PACER ratings in sections of road down there. Some had been starting to fail. I think most of those that were worked on graded 3 and 4. And 3 and 4 essentially, with the PACER ratings and what the state recommends, is typically 1.5 to 2 inches of asphalt. But at the time, with community crossings, we had started kind of into a maintenance mode, and the original plan was to not do any type of overlay down there, but to do crack fill, which, Jeff, I believe that was in 2016 or 2017. They filled the cracks, and then the next summer they were going to go ahead, and I think they applied for community crossings to actually do the micro seal like we've done on a big percentage of the roads in the community. And unfortunately, there was a couple 100-foot section of road that didn't have any type of crown. The water sat in it and it deteriorated to the point of failure. So the roads that were graded in 2016 as 3 and 4 have deteriorated to essentially 2s and 3s. The plan still this year was to put the micro seal on the road, and again, try and stretch our dollars as we've been doing in a lot of the different roads throughout the community, knowing that it's hopefully a more economical way than the overlay. But, you know, going from 3 to 4 and then down to 2 and 3, where actually 2-level roads are considered failed roads and should be 7.5 inches of asphalt. That's complete reconstruction. And the section probably wasn't big enough. Jeff felt that if we put some crown back in the road, we could get by with a 2-inch overlay. So essentially, the decision was made not only to try and repair the road, but more importantly, to try and get to the source of the issue, and that was to actually do some stormwater improvements. There were 3 structures, 3 areas down on that section of North Bay and Willow Road that were actually milled out to do some stormwater line replacements. So now you had sections of stormwater replacement that had been milled and needed to be refilled. You had a couple 100-section-foot of road that had failed, that the micro sealing was not going to work on. So the decision was made that the city actually has started doing some asphalting themselves, and the cost to actually do the asphalting on that section of road ourselves was actually about the same, if not even a little bit less, than doing sections of asphalt and then micro seal. So rather than having a patchwork of failing asphalt with micro seal on it and then overlay on other sections and kind of going back and forth, the decision was made to just go ahead and do the 1.5-inch overlay. And that's essentially what happened. But the idea was that the road became more crowned, it pushed the water off, and hopefully the failures that were rapidly deteriorating a real, I think, a couple 100-foot section of that road is now been taken care of. So I know it looks nice, I know it's smooth, you know, and yeah, I happen to live on North Bay, but the decision was I've been telling Jeff the last 3 or 4 years, you're not doing my road. I want you to prioritize roads in other districts. Because there's always concern, but it got to the point where if we didn't do it, and if it failed much more, we were gonna have to go in and do the 7.5-inch reconstruction. So, and frankly, those are the kinds of decisions that Jeff and his group make on every road in this community. The PACER ratings, I've got a copy of this here that's got all the PACER ratings. I know we've put this up on the city website before. I'm not sure if it's still there, but I'll make sure it's up on there. But this is 2016. The state with the community crossings now requires that those PACER readings be updated every 2 years. And Jeff, actually, this fall, will be updating this, and we'll have the 2018. But, you know, those ratings, depending on drainage, you know, it really caused a pretty rapid deterioration. But more importantly, improving the drainage with those 3 stormwater projects. Typically, you've got repair work to do after you do any type of utility work underground. So again, the idea is to try and if you're gonna do it all at once when you're doing both the street repair for the utility projects as well as the maintenance. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about those ratings or what happened, but I think it's important that I, you know, give an explanation about that because, you know, again, I live in the neighborhood and it's easy to potentially be critical of what happened, but Jeff is here. I don't know if you've got anything to add to that.
I mean,
Why don't you come up to the microphone, so please.
I hate repeating what you said because you covered it so well. I know you're right. I mean, we got into it, beginning to do that work. It was a 2-3, it went down to that point. Water is the ultimate evil to your pavement. As Joe mentioned, there's about a 288-foot section of pavement where all the water laid right in the middle of the road. It would not go off. So that was going towards a complete failure. Being that there isn't high traffic down there, I thought with an overlay we could get that done. And then we're back to micro sealing parts of it other. Well, then as we went through the process of doing the pipe work, it was going to end up looking like a patchwork quilt. And so then you'd have different roads aging at different periods of time. So within that micro seal only lasting around 6 to 7 years, the pavement hopefully lasting 10 years, then you're in this patchwork cycle and you never get out of it until you just do it. So the ultimate longevity of that road, the best thing was to do a complete overlay and mill and fill. And there's parts where we ended up milling and inching down, there was nothing but stone. So there was a lot of surprises that we ran into because there really was no road out there in some spots, and that was leading to the reason it failed. You don't know that sometimes, just like Jeremy, we go and start doing work and you expect there to be, you know, amount of road there, and you get down and there's actually nothing there, or what you thought was there. Oh yeah, and so that's just part of it, but it was a 2-3, it was failing. And I know some people mentioned, you know, about Fort Wayne Street, why not that one? But you have to go, there's a whole cycle and plan for everything we have going on, and people just need to ask. It's like Fort Wayne Street, you know, it's junk and it's been falling apart for a while. Why haven't we paved that? We have Buffalo Street going on. As soon as Buffalo Street goes on, then we're gonna come through and pave that. Fort Wayne Street heading to the east, why hasn't that been repaved yet? Well, we applied for a grant for sidewalks. All the sidewalks have to be redone. When those get done, we're gonna redo the curb. When the curb is done, we redo the road. So there's a plan sometimes to the madness of why we do it. So we're looking at doing a micro seal on that. Buy me a couple of years till the sidewalks go in, and it'll be almost a complete neighborhood revitalization that will occur. So there's plans sometimes to the madness, and there is a reason and a process for it all. And the road grades lead to what those practices are. And roads change really quick. 200 South wasn't on the radar this year. After this winter came through and some construction went on, it completely fell apart. So we got base coats down right now, and then later we're gonna work with the county and pave on 200 South, put the surface on, because they're doing the other half of 200. And you know, good cooperation between city and county again. As Joe mentioned, we're doing our own paving. We're still a little green. We're getting better every day, and I think it's a really good direction that the street department and the city is able to go to leverage our money in either grants or with our own workforce and be able to get more work done. So I appreciate him being willing to let us greenhorns get out there and do that paving, especially on his own road. But I think for the most part, made some miles out there, so.
Well, I think what you mentioned, leveraging, you know, the community crossings money. We've got another application coming up, and we're just trying to stretch those dollars with maintenance projects. Again, initially that was crack fill with micro seal, and the road just failed to the point where micro seal wouldn't have done a thing. So, and that's really what you want to try and avoid. You want to be able to get the micro seal down so that, you know, you can buy a few years.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Fairlane Drive is a perfect example of that. I mean, you started losing the fines out of the pavement, it was crack sealed, and then we put a surface coating over to lock all that in. Center Street's not gonna be far behind you. You're starting to lose the fines, especially out of the center lane. The driving lanes are looking kind of glossy. You're not losing fines, but you know, you're moving towards a candidate, you know, there as well. And so yeah, it's just where it's at, it's a life cycle, and it's all about doing the right fix at the right time. And then sometimes they get too far. You know, we had hoped to do the micro seal out there, and then just in the winter's time, after going over, and it was just a mess. So it was definitely beyond the micro seal part. We couldn't have fixed that. So
One thing you had mentioned at the beginning, after the winter, the brutal winter that we had, you know, a lot of our money was just going to fix these roads that were in not good shape that the winter just finished off. So you've been playing a lot of catch up this year with.
we didn't have large amounts of snow, but it was one of those where we had tons of those half-inch snows. And in some ways, those are worse because you're out just grinding that pavement. Sometimes when you have those 6 inches of snow, it actually kind of protects your road a little bit as you're plowing. But those half-inch snows, inch snows, if we are having to get out there and scrape, because we broke the record this winter of most days under 20 degrees in a row, and that builds up over time, and your roads take a beating. So yeah, especially those sections that are failed already, their accelerated deterioration is very quick. And that's how you can, I mean, it's amazing, you can go from a 5 down to a 3 just like that over 1 year, especially when you have water laying in the roadway, because that goes down in those cracks, it freezes and it blows up. I don't know how many times you drive into work or you go home and in the morning there wasn't a pothole there, at the end of the day there is. And that's, you know, just in 1 day's time you can see that happen. So imagine over the course of the winter how quick it can go.
So as long as you're up here, do you guys have any questions on the PACER ratings and how we do that and what the requirement is? Again, community crossings with the funds that the state is that we're leveraging with state funds, that is one of their requirements, is that we have these ratings, and every road gets rated every 2 years. And you guys will be in the process of that once your summer road work ends, and you'll start re-rating the road.
Yep, we're slowly re-rating them now. It's just there's a lot of road work going on right now. It's a great thing. Jeremy has a lot of projects going on. We have, and so does wastewater. So there's a whole lot going on at the same time. So we're slowly adding those in. It'll probably be mid-November by the time those ratings are done. I think a call for projects for community crossings will be in January, which will then be awarded in March and be ready for work next spring, next summer.
You have to have your PACER ratings updated to apply for the January.
I have, so if I have it done in November, I will submit them to LTAP. LTAP reviews, and they will send an acceptance letter to me and to NDOT. Once they've received that, then you're allowed to submit your application. So it's not just you have to do it. You actually have to do it and it has to be accepted to make sure everything's filled in the way it should be. They're going through it more than just, oh, look, here it is. So, yeah.
Okay. Again, I will make sure that these, I thought they were up on the city website. I'm not so sure they're not in our library. They might have originally been, but we'll get all that put up, especially when they get updated. So, any questions?
I'd just like to make a comment that I'm glad that we're doing the preventative maintenance. I think it's something that gets a lot of lip service sometimes and doesn't get done properly. And I think this is a good program. I'd like to see some type of objective evidence going forward. You know, I think we talked about that before. Something that the average person can really grab a hold of. Be it, you know, we did this many potholes last year, we only had to do this many this year. Our preventative maintenance is going forward. You know, it's working good. And I'd like to see it in more departments. And I think we are starting to see that within the sewage, you know, wastewater treatment plant and some other places. It's preventive maintenance is a good way to stretch the dollars.
a great place to go on to look, which is sort of the model we're following, which most of the state now actually is. They're kind of the poster child almost for preventive maintenance, is the city of Avon. They have a whole video where he goes through, and they've been doing this now for 18 years, to show, and that's why I say when you say where are the results, we're 2.5 years in. It's hard to show. I mean, I can show you pictures like I did on Center Street. Here we crack sealed, and then right on the other side of the state road, there's potholes everywhere, and it's all paved at the same time. And that was the perfect picture of why we crack seal. But City of Avon, they're 18 years in, and they have the whole life cycle of how they've bumped everything out. Great video, great guy teaches it. He's an engineer there. Good video to YouTube. It's about 25 minutes, half an hour long. He's spoken at road school quite a few times. But they're kind of their poster child for Indiana, and then spreading it out across the Midwest and across the whole country, really, to show that if you stick with it, it'll work. It's just so many people jump in, and they go, it's not black or it's not new, and then they jump back out. It's something you have to buy and sell into, and then make that oil change every year to get your car to 100,000 miles. You can't do the first 3 and hope it makes it. You got to do it all the way to the 100,000 mile mark to see that it pans out. So.
Not saying you have cracks, or that you have to micro seal every year.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Nope, it's just
All
in the
right.
toolbox.
Anybody else? All right. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. All right. Let's move into unfinished business. The council has requested a discussion on the non-for-profits, and I know there's been a committee that have been studying this year's requests as well as the future direction of the requests, and I believe that's Jack, Jeff, and Diane. Diane is kind of taking the lead on this, so I will turn this discussion over to you. Diane did pass out a sheet with some recommendations on it. Did Press get copies?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, you got this. Did you get that?
He did not, because I've got an extra one here,
Okay,
so
perfect.
somebody needs
I'll
one.
need that, Diane, when you get a chance.
Okay.
I'll make a copy after those.
Here, pass that down to Kyle. I got an extra one.
As the council made clear when the budget recommendations were read, they were uncomfortable with a 22% increase in the overall not-for-profit budgets as they were requested. If we would have granted every request as it was submitted, it would have been a 22% increase. And so as a committee, looking at what we wanted to do just for this year, knowing that in the future we are going to come up with a formula, a better application, criteria that need to be met in order to get these requests. We decided to look at historical data, and we chose to set the line that we did not want to increase anyone more than 15% in their requests. And so we then went through each individual request to see what they were, and that's what you have before you right now. And you can see where either what they asked for was less than the 15%, or we did a 15% increase in each one, with one exception on that sheet. So we would like for you guys to give us feedback on this. Our purpose for presenting it tonight is that we have a pretty heavy agenda in the upcoming meetings, and so we thought if we could have this discussion tonight when we had a lighter agenda. So I know that you've each had a chance to speak to one of the people, if not more than one, on the task force, and give us your opinions, and we've tried to reflect those in the document before you. So I guess we need to know if this is an acceptable solution for all of you.
Well, I am comfortable, after the discussions that we've had and looking at the figures here, I am comfortable with what the committee has come up with and is recommending. I guess I would just ask too that maybe we take a step further and we just kind of take a look at each of the contracts and make sure they're saying or fulfilling what we're wanting them to do.
And I think that's a really good point, and I know that we're going to be getting some guidance. The Community Foundation has offered to assist us in the future so that we have something that will give us a feedback form, if you will, or a responsibility form that would show that they did what they said they were going to do with the money. So thank you.
So we're transitioning into an application.
Correct, yes. And
A
we've,
revised
We've got an application.
we have an
that needs to be
application.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
it needs to be
updated.
updated.
Yeah.
And we've been making notes as we've talked with you. I have a whole pile of notes here of things that you guys would like to see on the application. I think we'll also get some good suggestions, that things we haven't thought of before.
I did appreciate the opportunity to meet within the different committee members and everything. I think that was good to have that dialogue and discussion, and so I felt like we talked things out and decided where we wanted to go in the future.
Does anyone else want to make any comment? If not, we just need a vote of approval on this.
Can I ask for a clarification or correction? You said, on the second line says, we therefore propose the following contracts for 2018. Do you mean 2019?
Yes,
Yes.
2019 budget year.
Mhm.
We've already done 2018.
Yeah, I know. That's why that's
That's just a little, this is gonna be just a little over 15%, or a little less.
It's less from, yes, from the year before. Okay, well then I'll take a motion to accept this as submitted.
I would so move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Oh, further discussion.
Oh, any further discussion? Sorry.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, let the minutes reflect 6-0. Just an approval of these amounts to go into the budget for 2019.
Jerry, did you second that?
No.
Cindy did.
Cindy did.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's way off.
Jerry made
Jerry made the
She
motion.
made the motion.
Jerry
Jerry
Okay.
One,
moved to vote.
I guess just as a note also, Counselor Kleindares has been quite involved and has been giving us long-distance feedback, so he's involved in as well.
All right. No, let's move into new business. We've got annexation, a fiscal plan resolution, and then a public hearing for the actual ordinance that will then be voted on at the next meeting. Jeremy, do you want to start with fiscal plan? How do you want to do it?
Yeah, we'll go through the fiscal plan, which is obviously pretty similar to a lot of the ones you've already seen. The key takeaways, of course, are always the same. The annexation size is roughly 40 acres. Currently, it's zoned agricultural. When it's brought into the city, it'd be zoned residential. The back has the tables that kind of relate to the impact of the annexation. So you can see the cost expectation of the annexation. Well, obviously, this is undeveloped land, so the cost out of the gate's going to be more cost on the city to take in the annexation than it's going to generate, because right now it's generating tax dollars based on its current use, which is agricultural. But obviously, 40 acres of developable land can certainly amount to 100 homes that would take in substantially more than what it's going to cost for the annexation. And a lot of this is coming from some of the things we've been working on, obviously, over the last year and trying to create housing opportunities. The mayor had asked me today for a conversation he was having with someone to put some figures together. And looking back on it, it kind of happens pretty quickly, but we've roughly annexed around 350-some acres, or working on 350-some acres of annexed land that will be available for residential development, which is pretty substantial in 1 year's time. So that's kind of what the resolution does. It just kind of runs through the fiscal impact of this annexation, talks about what it will be zoned. It will be, and I don't know if I said that, in the council district. This should be in Council District 5. So that'll be where it's at. Is there any questions on the fiscal plan or the annexation itself before you open it up for the public hearing?
I think maybe we'll just take a vote on the fiscal plan and then we'll go into the public hearing for the annexation ordinance. So as Jeremy, as he's got on, I think, page 13 and 15, it pretty much shows the costs and the slight levy increase at that agricultural status. Obviously, the whole idea here is create some land that would be ideal for workforce housing. It's becoming a big issue in the community, and this is our response to be able to provide properties with infrastructure so that developers can come in and create opportunities, kind of entry-level workforce housing that we so desperately need in the community. So that's really the purpose here. And as we've been made aware, there's a 2-year moratorium on annexations starting at the end of this year. So obviously we've done a lot of work, and Jeremy said over 350 acres of ground that we're trying to create infrastructure so that we can continue this housing concern. But this particular property, again, you can see the numbers. Does anybody have any questions with regards to the fiscal plan?
Jeremy, when we do need to bring services to that area, will they come from the airport area, or where will they come from?
So currently, if and when the time comes, it'll come from 15.
Okay, so come
But,
this way.
yeah,
Right.
so the closest through we have is all the way back on 15. But because there's no actual structure there, we don't have any upfront costs of providing infrastructure.
Right.
So when it develops, depending on how it develops, there may be some additional costs, but it's unknown at this time what that would be.
Okay.
That's a good question. Anybody else?
I move to accept the plan.
Motion's made to accept Resolution 2018-0901, Williams Annexation Fiscal Plan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ron. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Minutes reflect it passed 6-0. Now, we'll move into the public hearing portion of the annexation ordinance, which is required. We'll not consider this tonight, we'll just consider public input, and then at the next meeting, the ordinance will be presented for your consideration. So before I open the meeting to the public, are there any questions on the actual annexation process with this particular lot with Jeremy?
There aren't any plans or development plans that we've seen yet. This is just, okay,
Kind of setting the table.
yeah.
There's interest,
Yeah, there's interest.
Yeah,
but there's interest
There's
in
no
every
interest if
annexation
there's no
we've done.
sewer.
that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty basic.
I think we've talked to a lot of people with a lot of interest, and the few issues that have come out of those conversations has been the lack of available land. So we've done a lot of had a lot of conversations with people that have land and talked to them about making it available and how we can make it to position it so that it could be developed. And we're continuing to do that with some property down south right now. That would be the next annexation I'm trying to put together before the end of the year.
So about 8 months ago, we received information that there was a critical concern amongst the local employers about this housing, about workforce housing. We define affordable housing as housing that's either subsidized or based on someone's income, and that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about market rate housing at somewhat of an entry level for our employees in this community. And Jeremy and myself, we've met with builders, we've met with developers, we've met with bankers, realtors, the industry folks, and really trying to come up with a plan to to eliminate some of the barriers that some of the builders have, be it upfront costs, be it maybe being a little bit more flexible in some of our standards, if there's areas that will allow that. We're looking at, obviously, annexation into areas that are adjacent to the city that have existing infrastructure that quite simply would just be an extension of the infrastructure. This property is a little bit more than an extension. There's going to be, it's not adjacent to a subdivision that's got sewer, but it's close enough
That's why I
that it
asked.
makes sense. So, you know, all of these things, we had a meeting today, again, with some industry folks. IHCDA is very, very interested in what we're doing here in Warsaw. I think they're kind of looking at some of the things that we've done, some of the things we're trying to get stimulated, but everybody understands that, you know, this is just, it's a public-private partnership, you know, the state's gotta be involved, industry's gotta be involved, the city's gotta be involved to meet this demand. So, again, this really is just an extension of what we've been working on probably for about the last 8 months. And maybe it's good there's a deadline of January 1 to get these annexations done, because we've obviously been running them through. So,
Where does our sewer go? You know, that property behind north of Menards, do we have sewer to that?
yeah, we're working
It's-
with the developer back there as well.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, that's-
right down Mariners.
Okay,
Kind of, if you went out there, you'll see the manholes.
yeah,
But it doesn't go back into the development. But that's obviously prime
yeah.
land for development. The property we're trying to work with on the south side, the sanitary sewer literally runs right down the road. It's already there. It
Yeah.
just needs to be annexed in and then, you know, potentially offered, you know, if there's the opportunity for a developer to come in. There's some other property down south that we've had some conversations with that no one's pulled the trigger on annexing, but, you know, it'd be nice even if we could get some more of that annexed. And I mean, it'd be really nice if we could get 400 or 500 acres annexed in, that would be available for residential development. And that's what we've been trying to work on for the last 8 months.
More comments before I open this up? All right. So is there anyone here wishing to speak on behalf of the ordinance to annex? Anybody? Anybody?
Speak up, Phil.
All right. Anyone wishing to speak on behalf of the annexation? Is there anyone wishing to speak against the annexation or in opposition to the annexation? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the annexation? Okay. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing portion of this discussion and kind of kick it back to the council. Again, we won't be considering this per statute until it's presented at the next meeting. That's essentially what will follow. Again, you've got a pretty good idea of what's going on here. Are there any more questions before we move on? All right. Jeremy, thank you for all your work on this. It's a lot of work. Okay. Any other matters to come before the council? Okay. Any visitors' questions and comments?
I have one thing. I had gotten a call before the meeting this evening from a citizen who had hoped to be here, but is unable to make it, and I think maybe he talked to you, Mayor. He just wanted to throw it out to the council, if we could think about coming up with some way to maybe publicly recognize some of the individuals and small businesses via a plaque, a certificate, or something. Folks that have done different things for the city. It could be they participated in First Friday, and they could have helped with, you know, development and other things downtown throughout the community or whatever. And it's a pretty broad topic, so I think we'd have to give some thought to it. But he just would like to see us do some public recognition of individuals or companies. Mayor, you may know more than I did.
No, I thought it was a good suggestion. I talked to him, and, you know, I know, for example, the commissioners meeting, county commissioners will honor a veteran, and they do a great job with that. And maybe we honor a business, or maybe we honor a non-for-profit, or maybe we honor an organization or volunteers. That's certainly a good suggestion. We obviously have the forum here to do it, and I would be certainly in favor of that. So if anybody's got any unique ideas on that, we'll sit down and put our heads together and try and come up with something. Those good suggestions. All right, so Family Safety Day this Saturday from 11 to 3. They're going to have Jaws over there extricating something from cars. I'm not sure what, but I was promised Fire Territory Board today that it would be entertaining. So there may be something new. Instead of a zip line, I think they're going to tear cars apart. So it's always a good time and very well attended. And I know Shirley at the fire station works very hard. Mike, all the public safety folks, not only with the city but in the community, just really come together for this. And it's hopefully the weather will be nice.
Did you say 11 to 3?
11 to 3.
Okay.
Yep.
Speaking of the fire station,
Fire Territory today, evidently they're still on their punch list and they're going through. They had a little problem with the floor as far as the seal, so they ordered a different product and they're going to apply that, and that's obviously thrown them back a few weeks. He's hoping the end of September, but they want to get it. I don't think you realized when he originally said, oh, we're going to do this in August, that those punch lists sometimes take a little bit of time. And that's where they're at right now, but they won't occupy until it's completely done. But at 4 o'clock today, the suggestion was it would be sometime towards the end of this month, so I told them to just stay vague until we get a little closer.
Reminder that Market Street construction is going to be starting here shortly. We actually have a neighborhood meeting. We're inviting everybody to come here at 5:30, September 10th, to talk to myself, the contractor, and the engineer about the upcoming project. I know it's been on our Facebook and through our website, but certainly getting some help from the other media to make everybody aware that we will be here for about an hour that night to show them the plans and talk to them about construction scheduling.
Jeremy, thank you. We did the same thing out at Husky Trail. We invited not only the residents, but business owners as well. And basically had a map, talked about the timeline. And I think the advantage we have is the first phase down east Bronson. Everybody kind of has a pretty good idea what it's going to look like. But it'll be a long process and just touching base with the neighbors and business owners about what to expect over the next year.
October of next year.
Yeah.
So, yes,
13
it's a very long process, and obviously, given the letting date, there's only so much you can get done this year. But they are going to, because it is October of next year, and not say November, they are going to do some work this year. They're going to try to get as much done as they can without tearing up the road, so that we don't have a torn up road all winter long. So they're going to do those portions of the project they can do without really getting into the road. So the bulk of the work will happen next year, but there will be some construction and some lane restrictions as we move through the rest of this year.
What time does that meeting usually?
5:30,
The 10th.
the 10th, yes.
Monday.
So as long as we're talking about road construction, obviously Norfolk and Southern 3.0, they're back in the community. I know they got the Hickory Street south of Center pretty much filled today. What I'm hearing is that Pope Street will be open Wednesday, and Winona will be open on Friday. I'm not sure when Hickory's going to be open. They still have to finish a lot of those crossings were not finished. Some were. Actually, they opened Lyon and Arthur this afternoon, so we're making that slow progress, but I know it created quite a backup. And then we've got the sewer projects going on, the sewer lining, that again, it's be patient. I think they're going to get down on the Branch Road and south, Dogwood, I think Thursday, or it may be, Dogwood may be tomorrow. We're going to have some fire staff, some emergency personnel down there manning that intersection while it's closed in case they need to get across. And the track supervisors assured us that if there's an emergency, they'll get us across. So bid through this. This isn't quite as bad as when you were here the first time, or second time, but it's still, hopefully get through this week, and it should be, majority of the work should be done, so.
Just a couple of downtown things too. Several downtown merchants, Friday night for First Friday, they're gonna be doing a runway fashion show as a part of First Fridays. So that'll be a great opportunity to see some of the little merchandise that our little boutiques downtown have. And Bathhouse Records then on Saturday, they're going to be doing their Brouhaha 2018. And they will have food trucks and a band and so forth. So a lot of activity downtown this weekend.
Excuse me. Anybody else? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Stick around, I think we got some things to sign.
See you later. Thank you.
Good.
Keep things moving.
You getting that camper, that RV?
Yeah, there's always something broken.
Have you had your maiden voyage yet?
No.